In your experience advising AI companies and coaching data scientists, we already talked about two of them. So maybe you've already kind of answered this question. Like maybe the rules and dealing with these kinds of wounds or feedback from the past, maybe those are kind of your big um, kind of challenges and obstacles that you encounter. But I don't know if maybe you have some others. Like, are there like other common career challenges that you see amongst the data scientists and related professionals that you coach, and how do you guide them over those obstacles?
Yeah. So, for example, a lot of times when people want to explore, oh, maybe I want to do more machine learning, or want to get into Gen AI. The question they ask me, oh, what courses should I take? What books should I read? I think a lot of times people are so deep in their own head. The question they ask might not serve their growth. I think um, the most important thing is to understand what's the day to day of the role you want to get into. Something simple you can do right away is, for example, I always ask people to research 10 job roles to analyze what is the required field, what are the skills they need. Instead, it's not a kind of nice to have, because the nice to have people just put everything there, and it can range from big tech companies to startups. And also sometimes maybe you can just search, try to stalk 10 people on LinkedIn with the same title you desire, to look at their career path. How did they get there? And just talking to people in your company, your friends, or do some cold outreach on LinkedIn to do a lot of research. And I think the best way to transition is always to do that within your company or in your team, when you already have trust built with your manager or stakeholder, or someone going to write a review. So one thing I always talk about in the course and coaching is to build trust. That's the foundation for your manager to want to give you project with bigger scopes, to help you with promotion, give you a raise, or later help you transition into other roles. So I think it's not about the course, the skills you need to learn. It's more about like understanding the other role. So maybe you already have that skill set. Think about what project do you need to do to get in there. And another thing I think people don't think about is a lot of times being data scientist, machine engineer, the title can be very glamorous in the outside, but you don't know how our project is being evaluated. I think about the performance metrics is also very important. So for example, in there are different teams. They focusing on how many models you put into production. There are teams they also care about um, publishing like research, patents, paper, and on the day to day level. If you work in a large company like Meta, maybe you don't need to build a model from 0 to 1. They're already very mature model you can use. So basically, you need to. I joked with my friends. So basically, they're like config engineers. You just need to figure out what like type of parameters, experiments you need to do, and then it's very heavy on the engineering skill. Is that something you really enjoy doing? Or if you're in a smaller company, maybe you need to think about the stages of their um, data product. Do they have enough data? Is their data good enough? Are they ready to build their first product? If you really enjoy that kind of from 0 to 1 stage, and then that's also not enough. A lot of times in my work, you might notice there's a stakeholder from another team. This person later left the company, and then sometimes those projects get dropped. What is this team's relationship with their stakeholders? Do you have funding from your VP or another team? So there's always so many things beyond the technical skill you need to understand when you work in a role, especially for data scientists. Sometimes your manager is a software engineer or product manager. When you think about a role, a team, you need to understand what exactly the dynamic are there. Talk to a lot of people, so especially understand the struggles in this role. And I'm talking about this not in a way to intimidate people to get into data science, machine learning, or transition their career, but I think you need to have a kind of holistic view of a role before you think about how to get there, how to transition, and just or sometimes I suggest people to do interviews with some roles that's not their dream job, so you get a practice, you get a feedback from the hiring managers, from the recruiters, to know what kind of interview question do you need to practice, instead of just in your own imagination, um, think about how to grow. So that's one thing. If we have time, there's another thing. I think a lot of times data scientists and machine learning engineer, they are artists. um, so what is artist? Well, artists create art from their heart. They want to perfect that craft. They want to improve the performance from 90% to 91. They want to build a perfect platform that maybe in the future other people can use. I think those desire to be a perfectionist is great, but in a lot of times, um, you work for a company, your team think about there is a timeline, and there's conversations about cost. So maybe improve that model by 1 or 2% is not that important, but maybe you need to think about comparing costs. I'm just example, maybe OpenAI, Anthropic, which one is cheaper when you call those APIs, which one can reduce latency. So a lot of those things and go into the engineering aspect of things. And sometimes you also need to think like a product manager. So it doesn't matter how good your model is, if you're a stakeholder, especially if they're non-tech, if they don't understand your model, they don't trust you, they don't trust the model, they're not going to use it. If they don't use it, you don't have impact. You don't have anything to put on your resume when you look for a job, or when you want to have that promotion conversation. So I think um, data science and engineers need to get out their head a little bit to really think about how, actually not at the end of their project, in the beginning, to think about how this model is going to be used. And when you deliver this model to your stakeholder, do you know your stakeholder has stakeholders? Your stakeholder, if you can make your stakeholders' life easy, if you can understand what metric your stakeholder care about, then it's easier for you to um, get buy-in from your stakeholder. And also sometimes maybe machine learning isn't the solution, or sometimes it's a dashboard. Maybe you need to spend more time to collecting data. um, I think it's also very interesting as a data scientist. I think sometimes it's kind of philosophical. You need to be in the craft, but you also need to have this non-attachment to the craft, because sometimes maybe the best decision is not to launch the model. And uh, and if you're in a team, do you have a manager that understands this type of situation and provide a psychological safety for you to try things, or understand sometimes things don't work, or when an A/B testing failed, when this feature is not launched, what can you learn? What other things you can um, get from this project that will still be useful for your team? Um, so I think from this artist mindset to think like a business owner, think like a product manager, think about time, think about cost, and sometimes, mm, especially with the hallucination of language model, think about your company, your team's legal, PR, security. So I think you have to become a have this almost entrepreneurial mindset to be a good data scientist.
That makes so much sense to me. So to kind of recap some of these key like career mindsets that you see, the challenges that they encounter and the solutions that you have. There's the, I already kind of recapped on the assumption of rules that people have. We talked about the wounds that people have from feedback. But then since then, some of the great tips that you've given are around what the day to day of your dream role is like. So understanding that day to day role. So titles, something like data scientist, that could mean so many different things. And I have a follow-up question for you on that in a second. But so really understanding what is going to happen in this role is key, and a lot of that can have to do with the stage of the company that you're at. You gave some great examples there when you were explaining that. Another big thing is thinking about what the commercial impact of a project will be. So being entrepreneurial, not just being technical, but thinking about costs, legal issues, security issues, and then having that whole entrepreneurial mindset lead to great data science developments that can be, say, incorporated into a product or into a business and drive commercial results. And that is the kind of stuff, more than anything, that is going to be key to future promotions or landing your next big job. Yeah, I agree.